Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 25th and tonight's movie is Possessor. This is a science fiction horror thriller movie directed by Brandon Cronenberg. And if that last name sounds familiar, that's because his dad, David Cronenberg, is a pretty famous director. He's made horror movies such as The Fly, Scanners, Videodrome, and a few non-horror movies as well that have gotten him a lot of recognition and credibility as a director. Brandon Cronenberg seems to want to follow in his father's footsteps. I kind of had a deep red situation with this movie as well because there are two versions of Possessor. Possessor and Possessor Uncut. Uncut is basically the completely unedited version of the original movie. Some of the stuff was taken away for its release in theaters. And considering the fact that the original was R-rated anyway, that kind of says something. I'm going to watch the uncut version so that there's nothing missing, nothing lost in translation from the original work. This movie's premise seems to be a lot like Ghost in the Shell, but instead of working in like a police or law enforcement setting, the main character of this movie is an assassin. She's able to fully possess other people's bodies and use them for the plan. And it's on her big job where she needs to possess a man that things start to go south. The young man that she's possessing starts fighting back. This almost seems to be like a gender-flipped version of the average possession story, which tend to have young women being possessed by either male or gender-neutral deities, or people, I guess. I mean, I like Ghost in the Shell, so maybe I'll like this movie too. Or maybe I'll hate it, I don't know, I'm gonna go watch it. Considering how heated Malignant made me yesterday, after this movie I'm just kind of numb. I'm going to give Possessor a 5 out of 10. It's not so much that it did anything wrong as much as I don't think it tried to really do anything right. It was all kind of style over substance. It had some great style, but I kind of want some substance in my movies. When I'm talking about substance, I'm mostly referring to a good story and good characterization. This movie had a mediocre story and almost nothing in the way of characterization. The main two characters are Voss, the assassin, and the person that she possesses, Colin Tate, who's played by the same actor who played the dad in It Comes at Night. I didn't find that movie to be very memorable in general, so I guess it makes sense I didn't recognize him here. And although the actors are somewhat similar in age, the movie kind of plays him a little younger and her a little older, or at least that's the impression I got from it. The acting in this movie is great. I have no complaints in that regard. So are the visuals. The visuals are amazing at a few points. But it was kind of hard for me to get invested in the story because I know nothing about these two characters. They actually make Voss struggle with her own identity since she spends her job impersonating other people. They never go into detail about how she got this job or why she does it. We know that she loves her husband/ex-husband and her son, but that's not really enough. I've seen examples of like an assassin taking a job just to support their family even though they're conflicted about it, but that's not really the case here. There is some indication that she feels guilt over the things that she does, but not nearly as much as there should have been. She's a killer, and the way that she kills people is particularly twisted because she actually makes someone else's body do it and then make the host kill themselves in order to bring her back. The where that would bring to her psyche is something that they don't really touch on that much. They focus a lot more on the weight of constantly impersonating other people, making her lose herself. And that's not as good to me because it kind of makes her seem heartless. So what about Colin Tate? We see almost nothing from him before he gets possessed. Yes, he certainly has clearer motivations and is a much more sympathetic character than Voss, but we still don't really know who he is. And from what I got about their characters through the actions that they took, it doesn't really read that good for either of them. There's no characters in this movie to really get invested in. And the story is very lackluster. There wasn't anything about it that I found all that surprising or interesting. Comparing this to Ghost in the Shell, which I can see a lot of inspiration from, I'm mostly referring to Standalone Complex, the anime. There was a lot of style in that show too, but there was also some substance. There were some characters that we can get related to, some interesting commentary, some nice stories. This movie certainly could have had some nice commentary, some interesting characters, and a very interesting story. They definitely hint at commentary at a few points, but that doesn't really go anywhere. All this movie really gives is its visuals, which are incredible. The scene of Voss going into Tate's body is done wonderfully. The effects are great. And there's a lot of good visual representation of the battle for control between the two of them. I don't even feel like this movie failed at giving us good characters and a good story. It feels more like they didn't even try for that. They were trying more for this really stylistic experience. And I mean, as that, it's fine, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I'd say this movie succeeds at everything that it tries to do, but I don't think it tried to make what I consider to be, a good movie. And I guess you can take that for what it's worth. There are a few spoilers I do want to talk about as well. Colin Tate is the future son-in-law for this big CEO kind of guy played by Sean Bean. The plan is for Voss to go into his body, kill the CEO, the girlfriend, and then himself to bring her back. He does manage to severely injure the CEO and flat out kill the girlfriend, which kind of seemed backwards because the CEO legitimately seemed like a horrible person and the girlfriend seemed innocent. But she can't make him kill himself because he won't let her. The battle for control continues, and Colin is eventually able to take back control, but only after she makes him kill another person that he cares about, so he's obviously very upset. And since the fight for control showed Colin a lot of Voss's memories, he now knows where her family is, and he goes to them. And considering that Colin just had everything taken away from him, I'm not inclined to judge his character too much, but I will judge Voss's character by the fact that when she gets confronted by it, she tries to convince him that he was in control the whole time. Colin is able to kill Voss's husband, and then their kid comes downstairs, who stabs Colin, and in response, Colin, although they make it look like it's definitely Voss in control at that point, shoots the kid. It's then revealed that the kid was actually under control of Voss's superior, the person that she was working with. And at least according to some plot summary I read, this was all supposed to symbolize the higher-up taking away all the earthly attachments that she thought was holding Voss back. So by the end of the movie, nobody has learned anything. I'm just not really sure what to make of this movie. I didn't dislike watching it, but I certainly don't feel like I gained anything from seeing it either. I'm sure other people see this movie a lot differently from me, but to me, everything except for the visuals was very underwhelming. And that ends that review. I'll see you tomorrow.